Hello, students. Once more, welcome to the online classes. Students, do you remember where we stopped last time? Yes, we stopped there where we talked about the seamstress and her ailing son. We got to know about the happy prince that he was suffering from inside to see the ugliness of the city. He saw the seamstress far away from his place in a house where she was sad and helpless. He requested the swallow to take the piece of ruby from his sword hilt and go inside that house and drop that on her table. So, students, let's move to the next paragraph. I'll be reading out the paragraph followed by explanation. I am awaited for in Egypt, said the swallow. My friends are flying up and down the Nile and talking to the large lotus flowers. Soon they will go to sleep. The prince asked the swallow to stay with him for one night and be his messenger. The boy is so thirsty and the mother so sad, he said. I don't think I like boys, answered the swallow. I want to go to Egypt. But the happy prince looked so sad that the little swallow was sorry. It is very cold here, he said. But he agreed to stay with him for one night and be his messenger. Thank you, little swallow, said the prince. Explanation. Students, we know that the happy prince was disturbed by the sufferings of the people around him. But the swallow was not aware of the intensity of this. Students, intensity means degree of. In other words, the swallow could not feel the emotions of the happy prince. So it in a very light way said that it had to go to Egypt because other swallows were waiting for it. And the swallow also talked about the enjoyments or merriments the other swallows were making along the banks of the river Nile. It said that all its friends were flying up and down, that is, scheming and talking to the large lotus flowers. And after the whole day out work, all the birds would go and sleep soundly. So these were the wishes the little swallow also had. It did not want to stay even some time there and wanted to go to Egypt to join its friends there. But the happy prince was helpless, so he requested the swallow to stay for one night there and help him out in becoming his messenger. He tried to win the emotions of the swallow by saying that the boy of the seamstress was thirsty and the mother was very sad. To this, the swallow answered that it did not like boys. In other words, the swallow wanted to say that it did not matter to him whether the boy was thirsty or the mother was sad. And just to have an excuse It simply said that it did not like boys. But the swallow could also notice the sadness on the face of the happy prince. So it gave another reason for going from there, that it was very cold over that place. But looking at the condition of the happy prince, the swallow at last agreed to stay for one night and become the messenger of the happy prince. Next paragraph. Thank you, little swallow, said the prince. The swallow picked out the great ruby from the prince's shot and flew away with it in his beak over the roofs of the town. He passed by the cathedral tower where the white marble angels were sculptured. He passed by the palace and heard the sound of dancing. A beautiful girl came out on the balcony with her lover. I hope my dress will be ready in time for the state ball, she said. I have ordered flowers to be embroidered on it, but the seamstresses are so lazy. He passed over the river and saw the lanterns hanging on the masts of the ships. At last he came to the poor woman's house and looked in. The boy was tossing feverishly on his bed, and the mother had fallen asleep. She was so tired. In he hopped and laid the great ruby on the table beside the woman's table. Then he flew gently round the bed, fanning the boy's forehead with his wings. How cool I feel, said the boy. I must be getting better. And he sank into a delicious slumber. Explanation. The happy prince was very happy to hear from the swallow that it would stay that night and become the messenger. The swallow picked out the piece of ruby from the hilt of the sword. It fixed the ruby between its beak and flew over roofs of the town. That means the buildings, over the buildings. Students, beak, B-E-A-K, beak. Beak means the mouth of a bird. In other words, the foremost part of a bird which is hard and which is used by the bird to pick up its food. The swallow flew over many buildings and it also passed over the cathedral tower. On the walls of the tower, marble angels were sculptured. They were very beautiful to look at. The swallow also passed by the palace of the king of that city. While flying over the palace, swallow could hear music and dances. Then he saw a beautiful girl coming on to the balcony with her lover. She was expressing her excitement regarding the state ball. That means the state party. She told her lover that she had ordered a beautiful dress to be embroidered with flowers on it. But at the same time, she complained about seamstresses who could not give the dresses in time, and so she remarked that the seamstresses of the city were very lazy. Then the swallow passed over the river and saw beautiful scenes there. It saw lanterns, that means lamps, hanging on to the mast of ships sailing or anchored. Students, mast is the upper part of a ship. Mast helps the ship to take turns against the direction of the wind, and it is movable. At last, the swallow reached the house, and it entered the house through the window. It saw the boy taking turns on his bed from one side to the other in fever, and his mother had fallen deep asleep because of tiredness. The swallow hopped onto the table and slowly dropped the piece of ruby on the table beside the woman's thimble. Now, students, thimble, what is it? It is a small instrument, metallic instrument, worn by people who stitch to push the needle through the fabric. Generally, it is worn on the thumb. So from there it comes thimble. The thimble was there on the table, and the swallow dropped the piece of ruby near it. And it flew to the boy's bed and, flapping its wings, tried to fan the boy. And it went in that way. The boy also felt better and said that he was feeling cool and would be getting better soon. Then the boy fell into a good sleep. Students, slumber means sleep. The next paragraph. Then the swallow flew back to the happy prince and told him what he had done. It is curious, he remarked, but I feel quite warm now, although it is so cold. This is because you have done a good action, said the prince, and the little swallow began to think and then fell asleep. Thinking always made him sleepy. When day broke, he flew down to the river and had a bath. Tonight I go to Egypt, said the swallow, and he was in high spirits at the prospect. He visited all the monuments and sat a long time on the top of the church steeple. When the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. Have you any commission for Egypt? He cried. I'm just starting. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince. Will you stay with me one night longer? I am awaited for in Egypt, answered the swallow. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince. Far away across the city, I see a young man in a garret. He is leaning over a desk covered with papers, and in a glass by his side there is a bunch of withered violets. His hair is brown and crisp, and his lips are red as a pomegranate, and he has large and dreamy eyes. He is trying to finish a play for the director of the theater, but he is too cold to write any more. There is no fire in the grate, and hunger has made him faint. I will wait with you one night longer, said the swallow, who really had a good heart. He asked if he should take another ruby to the young playwright. Alas, I have no ruby now, said the prince. My eyes are all that I have left. They are made of rare sapphires, which were brought out of India 1,000 years ago. He ordered the swallow to pluck out one of them and take it to the playwright. He will sell it to the jeweler and buy firewood and finish his plays, he said. Dear prince, said the swallow, I cannot do that. And he began to weep. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, do as I command you. So the swallow plucked out the prince's eye and flew away to the young man's garret. Explanation. The swallow flew back to the happy prince after completing his work, and then he remarked that he was feeling warm, and that was a very symbolic reply. The prince made it understand the symbolic meaning of what just he had said. The prince said that it was not because of anything else, but because of the good things he did for the seamstress and his son that made him feel warm. So, students' symbolism is a figure of speech that has a hidden meaning also. The line, but I feel quite warm although it is so cold, means that he was feeling warm from inside. It is not related to the weather outside, which is very cold. The swallow fell asleep because it had traveled a long distance and it also started thinking about the things he had done. And it is remarked by the writer that whenever the swallow used to think, it felt asleep. The next morning, the swallow went to the river and had a very good bath. Coming back to the happy prince, it informed that it was going to Egypt that night, and it was also very excited to meet its friends. With this excitement, the swallow flew over the beautiful buildings and monuments in the city and also sat on the top of the church, that is, the tower of the church, which is steeple. It's given here, church steeple, for a long time, as if it wanted to see the city for the last time. When it was about to be night and the moon rose, he came back to the happy prince. He asked the happy prince if he had anything to say or any instruction for him to impart to his friends in Egypt because he was about to move to Egypt. Students, here commission means instruction or command. Hearing this, the happy prince started calling him in a very sweet voice, swallow, little swallow, and he requested it to stay for that night with him. But the swallow replied that its friends were waiting for it there in Egypt. Then the happy prince showed the swallow something far across the city. He said that he could see a young man in a garret. Students, garret means a small dark room at the top of a house. The man was leaning over his table, covered with a lot of papers. This young man had some withered violet flowers by his side in a glass. His hair was brown and it became dry. Students, crisp, The word is crisp used here. It means dry. And his lips were red like pomegranate. Students, pomegranate is a red fruit. Now, the writer uses a simile here. Do you know what a simile is? Like symbol or symbolism, as I told you. Simile is a figure of speech or literary device. It is used to compare two dissimilar things with a common quality. Here, the color of the young man is being compared with the color of a fruit, that is pomegranate. The eyes of the young man were large, and it seemed as if they had dreams in them. The man was trying to complete a play, that is, a drama, for the director of the theater, but he could not do it because of the cold weather. So he was unable to complete it because of cold. There was no fire in the grate. Grate means fireplace. And he also did not have food and was hungry that could make him faint. So, students, we find that the first persons who were helped by the happy prince were the seamstress and her son. And now it was a young man, a young playwright, who was poor, did not have food to eat, and even did not have warm clothes to wear in cold days. After hearing this, the swallow said that it could wait for another night there and asked for another ruby that it could give to the young man. But the happy prince said that he did not have any more ruby with him. So the happy prince told the swallow about his eyes, which were made of sapphire. Students, I already told you in our last class, I think, what a sapphire is. Sapphire is a very precious stone. The eyeballs of the prince were made of sapphire. The happy prince said that the young man would sell the sapphires to a jeweler and could buy firewood and then could finish his play. The swallow immediately replied that it could not take out the sapphires from his eyes. Students, here it is an interesting point. We find that the swallow was not so cruel to take out the eyeballs of the happy prince. What does it mean? It means that the swallow was slowly and steadily becoming sympathetic. Earlier, we found that it was very practical. It was about to leave the happy prince, but now it could not gather courage to take out the eyeballs of the happy prince. But knowing the situation, the happy prince ordered the swallow to do as he told. So, students, let us stop here. If we learn bit by bit, it will be clearer and interesting also. There must be some sort of suspense. For the next class, let us see what happens in the story in the next class. Thank you so much for being with me. Meet you next time. Thanks.